Hello, everyone, and welcome to my interview with the legend of football YouTube that is Thogdad. How are you today?
Hey, that's very kind, Josh. I'm absolutely fine, mate. How are you?
I'm great. I'm just delighted to have you on the channel.
Mate, it's my pleasure. Great to be on the channel. And by the way, good luck with your channel as well.
Thank you. So I'm going to start off with, how did you get into Theo's videos, really?
Good question. It was, you know what, it was by accident, really. I mean, Theo started his channel when he was 13. And we went, first of all, he did FIFA videos, and I had nothing to do with that, you know, his own content. And then one day he said, well, his mate said to him, you should go to a Bolton game with the camera. So we went to Bolton against Eastleigh down on the south coast. And I can remember Theo saying to me, Dad, whatever you do, stay out of the camera. This is my video. You know, he was a 13-year-old kid who doesn't want to be embarrassed by his old man. But then for some reason, I think I appeared in that video, and the feedback was, oh yeah, we like you, Dad. We like Thogdad, so get him in more often. So really it was, when I appeared, people seemed to like it, and over time it just happened. So one of those things that was driven by comments from people. If people hadn't liked me, then I wouldn't be Thogdad.
I imagine for you it's pretty surreal having, basically your job is traveling the world with your son watching football. Like, how is that for you? Like, how does that feel?
It's brilliant. I mean, obviously, you know, I feel a huge pride for what Theo's achieved through, like I said, through really hard work over the last 7 years. I mean, it's enjoyable. I mean, you know, we went to the World Cup in Russia. We've been away to Bulgaria, Spain, Czech Republic, all over Europe. We've been to Germany. It's brilliant because I love football. You know, there's nothing I like more in life than maybe sitting in my chair, you know, at a German football game with a beer, watching the football, and with your son next to you. That's brilliant. So it's fabulous. It is hard work. You know, at times, you know, you've got to get up at like 4 a.m. to catch the flight and everything. You know, it is a job as well as being fun. But yeah, like I said, immensely proud of what Theo's achieved.
I think that's what some people forget is, although on camera it looks all very in that 15-20 minutes, oh, they've just gone to football, but it's planning it and budgeting it and getting hotels and finding accommodation and all that things. I think people just forget about, and you don't really see that side of it.
Yeah,
but that must be difficult.
That is a very good point. I mean, I remember we went out to the World Cup in Russia. We were out there, 3.5, 4 weeks. Imagine how many plane tickets, train tickets, tickets for matches, accommodation, you know, all of that stuff. Even, you know, you get there, you arrange your Russian mobile phones, all these little things you don't see when you watch the video. But believe me, when I came back from Russia, I tell you, I just collapsed. I caught flu or something. I'm just so knackered after that. But it was brilliant as well. So, you know, in life, you've got to put in some effort, haven't you, to get the rewards?
Yeah. That's what I'm finding. I had like 3-4 years of YouTube where I just did it and was like not really bothered about how they look, just did them because they were fun. Then the last sort of 2 years, I'm like, I've sort of found, mainly I do sort of stuff in the wrestling side of YouTube, but I'm sort of trying to expand my demographics a bit into some more viewers and see, well, if people enjoy my football content, because I'm a Newcastle fan, we'll get into that in a bit, then I'll try and expand it into that. And I've really seen sort of a growth in the last, even it's just small, it just, so for Theo, if he gets another 3,000 subscribers, that gives him a buzz, but 10 for me is like, wow, like, it's just...
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's important, isn't it? I mean, you know, my main advice would be, you know, do what you enjoy. But I mean, the subscriber growth and, you know, the money eventually, it's an extra, isn't it? And it's valid. You know, when someone subscribes, I think, you know, last 2 days, 3,000 new people have subscribed to Theo. It's a sort of, it shows, it's validation that he's doing something right.
Yeah.
So it's a nice extra.
So, one of the first ways I sort of stumbled across you was your many infamous clips that you have. See, which one is your favorite of that you've done? There's the bullet header, there's the promotion, there's loads. Which ones are your favorite? And if you can go into a bit of detail about how they came about, that would be great.
It's funny because, you know what, I actually had a dinner last night with people my age, actually older than me, and I was explaining about the Thogdad bullet header and stuff. I mean, that was the Thogdad bullet header. It was a funny one because it was the time when Bolton nearly went bankrupt, and we were playing the youth team, and we were playing Accrington Stanley, and we lost that day 7-1. So the fans,
yeah.
We had a few bevies. We always have a laugh, but it was quite miserable losing to your neighbours. Accrington Stanley 7-1, and a ball had gone into the crowd, and being Bolton fans, well, I will keep this, Yeah. And somebody I just looked to my right, and someone shouted, "Thogdad," and he just threw the ball to me, and I went in for a header, and of course it landed on the pitch. And then there was some kid. It wasn't Theo. Some kid was videoing it on his mobile phone, and that became the Thogdad bullet header. It is a funny clip.
It was hilarious.
Completely random. The only trouble is now when I'm playing in games, people are like, "Oh God, we're going to win this with a Thogdad bullet header." Yeah. Now I'm not bad at heading, but I'm not that good at heading. You know what I mean? That's the irony. Yeah. Then no son of mine gets a Coke. That was a funny one because I went to the bar. It was at the Bolton Whites Hotel, the hotel next to the Bolton ground. And I said, this is the true story. I said, I'd like a pint of Guinness and a Coke. I actually asked for a Coke. This is the true story.
Yeah.
And I was given, and the barman just was, he was serving 20 people at once, and he gave me a pint of Guinness and a pint of Cobra. So he heard the word Cobra, and I thought, oh no, Theo's going to be mad because he's doing his editing before the game.
Yeah.
But then, as I was walking back to him, I thought, oh no, I've got a funny one. It just came to me. I thought, I know what I'm going to say. And I said, "Theo, put your editing down, turn the camera on. I've got a good one." And I delivered that line.
Yeah.
So that's the full story of how that happened. And then, it tastes like promotion. That just came to me in the moment, as people were asking me for, a beer review. And it just came to me that split second, oh, this will be a good one. And of course, all of this stuff gets TikToked and shared around. And mate, I think it's brilliant. I think it's funny. I don't mind people laughing at me or with me. It's life's short. It's a bit of, for me.
I really love that because when people put themselves on social media, and that is unfortunately some things that you will get.
Yeah.
And I think you need to have that. Not that you should, but in the generation we're in, we people need to sort of have. So people are going to say stuff just to get a skin, to get a response.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely, mate. I mean, I think you shouldn't take yourself too seriously. I mean, it helps that I'm in my 50s. I've seen it all, and if someone wants to insult me and it's a bit of banter, whatever, it's just water off a duck's back, really. But those clips, I think they are genuinely funny, and like I said, I really don't take myself too seriously.
So, do you remember what your first ever football game was?
I do, yeah, and it was October 1975. Bolton Wanderers against Notts County in what was then called the Second Division. It's now called the Championship, and Bolton won 2-1. And I can remember that day. A couple of names you might know: Peter Reid was playing for us, Sam Allardyce was playing for us, big centre back. And I was 7 years old, and I was taken there by my dad. And before that date, I didn't really know what Bolton Wanderers was. I was at school in Lancaster, and everyone in the playground supported Man United or Liverpool.
Yeah.
And suddenly my dad took me to a Bolton game, and I can still remember the occasion, being lifted over the turnstile, the smell of people smoking cigarettes. I remember the smell of, the cold October air, and these fellas smoking cigarettes, drinking beers, swearing. I thought, oh, this is magnificent. This is really incredible in terms of the experience. And I suppose my love of football started that day.
Yeah. Mine was when I was 7. Mine was Blackpool, Newcastle. We won 4-1. Andy Carroll scored a hat-trick, and Ben Arthur scored 1. I don't remember his goal for Blackburn. But that was, I'll always remember that. And I went to my first game for 3.5 years. I had a season ticket for 6 years, and it was Sunderland versus Crewe. I just went because I live in Crewe, and Sunderland were there.
Yeah.
So I was like, do you know what? I'll go on, mate. Shout out to Morgan. He was very excited about this, and he was like, "Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's Sunderland. They'll get beat." But they did. They got beat 4-0. But as soon as I arrived at the stadium, I was like, "Oh yeah, I miss football. Like I really do."
Brilliant.
I'm a Newcastle fan. You're obviously there last week, which I am very jealous of. What was that experience like?
Well, it was absolutely brilliant. I mean, I couldn't, in terms of, we get a lot of recognition at games these days. the sort of the recognition and the love and the positive feelings from the Newcastle fans. When I went to the front there, and there was some street performers, and I just spent half an hour taking selfies with people, joking, etc. People were singing "Thogdad is a Geordie," and it was quite funny because a friend of mine, someone I'd actually met in London the week before, suddenly showed up. I didn't know they'd be at the game, and I said to them, I said, "Was this coincidence? How did you find me?" And she said, "No, I was 100 yards away, and I heard this chant, 'Thogdad is a Geordie,' so I kind of knew you must be there." But really, I love the Northeast. I went to Durham University back in the day, so I've lived up in the Northeast for 3 years, and love the Newcastle fans. Delighted that they've got new owners, and that things are going to look up, because that's what I know how much football means to the people of Newcastle. And look, and it's similar down the road in Sunderland. Let's be honest. I know you're right.
See, I hate them, but they outsold the Crew fans.
Yeah.
Like by a long, they gave them half the stadium and they sold it out. Like, I forgot, because when I was going to the derbies, Newcastle fans are loud, and we always outnumbered them. We knew they were loud, but we were louder. But when Crew aren't as loud, obviously, League One, not as much of a rivalry. Yeah. And then you could just hear them, like from the first minute, every Crew were going at them with chants, and then they just had a response instantly. And it was great to watch.
Yeah, no, incredible fans. So the passion in the Northeast is truly incredible. It's good in the Northwest. I think it's different level in the Northeast.
So obviously, yesterday Steve Bruce got sacked, which I am happy about. I think my problem was I was like, give him time, but the football he played was just, we have one plan. If it doesn't work, we can't change the plan, and that's unfortunate for me.
Yes.
Who would you think would be a good fit?
Oh my goodness. That's a very good question. I mean, I know, for example, you're talking about Gerrard and Lampard. I think the way you've got to look at it, the next manager and the next set of players will be the players to get you through the next phase. And the first thing you need to do is stay up.
That's exactly what I've been saying.
And you can't overlook. So what you're not going to get is you're not going to get a Guardiola equivalent at this stage, because you need a year to stay up. You need a year or two to consolidate and build a club. And maybe after years 3, let's say after year 3, season 3, you can be looking at European qualification. It might not be Champions, because there are, as you know, there's half a dozen very, very good, very wealthy clubs in the Premier League.
What West Ham have done over the last 3-4 years.
Absolutely right. Everton are knocking on the door. Leicester are knocking on the door. Then you've got the big 4. Then you've got Arsenal and Tottenham.
It's also like in between, like you don't know where they're going to finish.
You've suddenly got you're nearing a sort of 8 or 9 really good clubs who should be pushing for Europe. So if you could get Stevie Gerrard, I mean, I do admire him. I admire what he's done at Rangers. It takes some doing to go up there and stop Celtic doing the 10th row. He's obviously someone who is a legend of the Premier League, who managerial experience. That would be a coup. I mean, you'd annoy the Rangers fans, obviously, but that would be a coup. Frank Lampard.
I prefer to get Lampard over Gerrard. I think his play style would suit us better, to be honest.
Yeah.
I forgot the name of someone this morning. I've only got about an hour and a half ago that we've been linked with. Name completely escapes me.
Yes. And quite honestly, I don't know enough about him to comment. But my main point would be your next manager probably won't be the manager in 5 years.
No.
So you've got a good interim manager. And I think, like I said, one of those names, if you got Gerrard or Lampard, you should be very happy.
Yeah.
I think that was someone who could go into the dressing room, really inspire the players by his presence. Because he's done it. Both of those guys have done it in the Premier League.
Lampard did with Derby, the Mounts, people like that. I'm a massive fan of the Longstaff Brothers. I think with the right guidance, they can be exceptional to get playing together. Sean, I think, had an awful game. I think our defence was horrendous. We could have stopped more of the goals realistically. But I think Matty's out on loan at Aberdeen right now. When he comes back, if Lampard's still there, I think building a new team. We can spend 190 million in January, which I don't think we will. I think we'll spend 90. I think that's realistically. We'll get Coutinho. We'll get maybe a striker. I don't actually think we need, because Callum Wilson's really good, but we need a new defender, really, because Lascelles is good, but I would say our defence is championship quality right now.
Yes, and I agree with you. And obviously Theo and I do our Premier League predictions at the start of the year, and I think I certainly put Newcastle bottom 4 or 5. Yeah. I think of today, in terms of looking at the squad as a neutral, I think Norwich, Watford, Burnley, Newcastle, and Southampton. I think those are the 5 weakest squads in the league. And as things stand with those players, you'll get relegated. So you do have to spend. And I personally, we did a little video on this. I've not gone for Coutinho. I think he's damaged goods. It'd be a wonderful marquee signing, and they might. I'm not saying they won't do it, but I am saying it's possibly not the right signing.
Yeah.
You need 4 or 5 really solid players, and particularly in the spine, centre backs, central midfield. Because up front, you've got Callum Wilson will score goals. Alan Smith,
Joelinton and Dwight Gale have done a video for me for my GCSEs. They come across like really nice people. I think Joelinton gets a bit of unfair stick. People forget how young he is.
Yes.
And he's been put into the Premier League and expected to be great. I thought he had flashes of brilliance against Spurs. There was at times I thought, oh, do that more. But we need to keep hold of St. Maxim, because he could be incredible for us.
Yes, no, absolutely.
So there's a couple of stories I'm going to have you to make you retell here that you've said with the podcast and interviews and things. My first one is about the stuff that was it Russia or Bulgaria? That sort of scary moment.
Oh, the Bulgaria, yes.
Yeah, if you could quickly recall that story for the people.
I will do. Yeah. So Bulgaria and England, a qualifying game for it was the Euros, wasn't it? And you could tell from where we were sat that there's a lot of racist activity within the Bulgarian crowd. There were, I'd say, hundreds of sort of black-clad ultras, and it was quite clear what they were singing. It was quite clear that the monkey noises, and that they were coming up with some very offensive, racist chanting and noises. It was very, very unpleasant. And certainly from where we were sitting, the England fans, we were almost, even though we spent a lot of money to get to Bulgaria, we were thinking, players, if you walk off at this moment, we're going to clap you off, because there's no way, Raheem Sterling, Tyrone Mings. We had 4 or 5 black and minority ethnic players that day. And our thoughts was, wait a minute, there's no way those players should be treated like so anyway, throughout the game, there was a nasty atmosphere. Those ultras all left en masse at one point. And what we found out later is that, they basically were waiting outside for the England fans to leave. So, of course, the England fans were, at the end of the game, which we won, was it 5-1 or so? We absolutely battered.
I think it was 6-1, I think, in the end.
We absolutely battered them.
I remember that.
Raheem Sterling was brilliant. We were all singing "Who Put the Ball in the Racist Net." It was great to be there. Then we're led out by the police. And for about the first mile, we've got police either side of the England fans. But then they sort of, I think they got bored and left us to walk. And we realised that there's no public transport, no taxis, buses, nothing around. They couldn't get into Sofia city centre. So we thought, okay, we'll just walk the next 2 miles back to our hotel. And about probably a mile from the hotel, we actually saw a piece of graffiti on a bin. We're taking a picture of it. It was something to do with race. And we looked behind us and we saw 8 of these. It's about 8 of these black-clad big lads. And I thought, oh no. And so I was with a mate and our 2 sons. So 2 teenagers and 2 lads. So of course, we're not ultras at all. We're not fighters. We're not hooligans. We looked around and yes, there were those guys. And we realized this could get a bit ugly. So we started to walk to the left. They followed us from slightly behind. And then I realized, luckily, that there was another hotel, not our hotel, but another one nearby. So we sort of quick walked into there to get away from them. Sat down, ordered some drinks. 5 minutes later, some England fan walks in, blood pouring out of his head, because, these 8 brave lads had found one England fan. What these guys were doing, they were going around the hotels looking for England fans. In fact, I think, and what they were getting help. So people working in the hotels, like the barman and stuff, you could see them taking calls. I think it was from the ultras, and the ultras were saying, "Do you mind if we come in and batter any England fans?" So it was organised, and it was unpleasant. But we missed a beating that day, and like I said, it would have been 2 adults and 2 kids against a massive group of Bulgarian ultras.
Sure, they wouldn't have gone for the kids.
They would.
That amount of morals. Like,
I tell you, they would. I think all day long they would, because Theo then was probably 18. This other lad was 15, but probably looked 18. They would. They'd have gone for all 4 of us. And my friend Michael. Michael and I said afterwards, we'd have taken a couple of swings and then we'd have got battered, because these guys are younger, fitter, and they're hooligans. I mean, from my view, if 2 sets of hooligans want to fight, go and do it away from the public. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What you don't pick on, you don't pick on the scarves, you don't pick on ordinary fans, and that's what we are. So that was, it was particularly for the youngsters. That was a bit of a hairy experience.
We're coming up on about half an hour now, so I'm gonna ask you one more of your infamous stories, and I'm gonna hit you with some quick fire questions, and then
that's fine.
So you almost bought a football club.
Yeah.
Can you go into that one as well for me?
Of course I can. Yeah, and the story was, so some good friends of mine from Iceland one day came to me and they told me, they said, "Stephen, I'm thinking of buying a football club." I asked them which club it was, and it was another football club from the south. I can't say which one. And I looked and I said, let me look at all the numbers and all the, the financial details. And I did. And I went back to my friend and said, "Look, this is a terrible investment, loads of debt. It's a small club. You don't want to touch it." And then that weekend, by chance, and we're going back to the year 2001, it was March, April 2001, I saw an advert in the Sunday newspaper. I think it was or it was at the Times on Saturday, put an advert for sale, Oldham Athletic Football Club. Now, I've got family history with Oldham in that my mum and dad are from Oldham, and we'd watch Bolton one week, and if Bolton were playing away, we'd go to Boundary Park to watch Oldham. So Oldham Athletic has always been like my second team, if you're allowed to have one.
Yeah.
So I actually wrote that Monday, 2 days after the advert gone in, I wrote to the club, sent them a fax. This is the olden days, saying, "Look, I represent a consortium of investors who'd be very interested in looking at the club." And when you're buying something like that, you do what's called due diligence. You look at all the finances and everything. So I came. So that Monday or the Tuesday, I drove up to Boundary Park, met the directors. I met the manager at the time. I started looking through all their numbers. And basically, I liked what I saw. Back then, Oldham was a very well-run club. It was in the what is now the First Division, the third tier of English football. And admittedly, so my consortium was a bunch of Scandinavian investors, one of whom super wealthy. The others all had football knowledge. And we were very, very interested. But what happened was that another consortium, there was 4 potential buyers. Another guy just moved more quickly and put a contract in front of the Oldham directors and said, "Look, we can do this quicker than the other lot." Yeah. And we missed out because we were too slow. But you could argue that the Oldham directors took it too fast. Yeah. So we missed out. And I would have been a director. I think possibly I would have eventually been chairman of the club. And who knows where that would have led. But what I do know is that my investors were and are serious guys with a lot of money, a lot of love for football. I think it would have been very good for the club. And the guys that bought Oldham completely messed it up, and one of them ended up in jail for fraud. So it didn't go well for the club.
No. So I'm going to hit you with a few sort of quick fire questions. I've got a couple here. So a very, very, very common question was, who is the most famous person that you have easy contact to?
Oh.
Email, phone book, or whatever like that.
You could say, there's a comedian, Angus Deaton, who I was hoping would play in our football game tonight. Alistair Campbell, if you know your politics, he used to run the country along with Tony Blair. And then, there's a couple of footballers. And then down the road, there's the actor Jim Carter, who was in Downton Abbey. You know, I'll always say hello to Emma Thompson. She lives just down the road. So, you know, there's a few names. Of course, these days, people your generation, they kind of know the YouTubers a lot more.
Yeah.
We know what, basically all the YouTubers. We play, you know, we play sort of football with the E-Boys guys, and, you know, Theo plays football with them every week, and Cal Freezy and all of this lot. So Jack Mate is a good mate.
Yeah.
Irish guy's a good lad. Loads and loads of YouTubers. Yeah. So, but
I couldn't find anything.
I don't judge people based on fame, really. So
that's one thing I was like, do I ask that question? Because that's like it just depends on what people like. But are you guys going to be involved in Clash this year? Or
absolutely, yeah. I think Theo's been announced. I think I will be announced soon.
This is going out next week, so
yes. Yeah, I think, yes, we will be involved. Can't wait. I mean, hopefully this time, I was injured last time, so I was a manager. Yeah. This time round, I will play. I'll be a strong centre-back.
I'm looking to go this year because I feel like last year, everyone was a bit like, is this going to go well? Is this not? We were a bit like, because you hadn't seen it. It was a sort of thing of, oh, it could go well. But I actually enjoyed it more than the Sidemen charity matches. Just the way it was formatted worked so much better.
Yes.
And the people on commentary did a brilliant job. Production, although some people didn't like it for some unknown reason, was brilliant. And I'm studying radio and audio, so I'm sort of looking at that, and I want to go into commentary and things like that. And like looking at that sort of side of thing, and looking at the productions and things like that. That actually really helps me because it's not that much of a big scale.
Yes.
Yes. My final question for you is, what is there outside of YouTube/football that you want to achieve that you haven't yet?
Right. So it's a very good question, because, you know, I achieved a lot in business back in the day. I think there's one thing I'd like to do more of is writing. I'm a sort of
ask this.
Yeah, I'm a sort of.
Can we have a Thogdad autobiography, please?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll share a secret with you that the first 40 pages of that are written. But that doesn't mean that it'll be released soon. I mean, with something like, I like to get things down on paper. It might be we'll wait a year, 2 years until I release this, but there will be. I can confirm exclusively there will be a Thogdad autobiography when the time is right. But also, I enjoy writing fiction. You know, I've written a book. I wrote a book, oh my goodness, nearly 20 years ago. And then I put it in a bottom drawer, and I haven't read it since. Or actually, no, I took it out a few years ago and read half of it. And I thought, you know what, with a bit of work, this could be a good book. So that is my answer. I would love to publish an autobiography and a few novels.
That would be, I think with your platform on YouTube now, I think that they would do very well, especially with some of your demographic, as I imagine a bit older and maybe have kids itself, and that was, I think that would be quite interesting, to be honest.
Thank you. No, look, I love reading. I love writing. I mean, there's certain, Thogdad is a character, and what you know about is the bulletins and the beer reviews and the football. But there's other sides to Stephen that obviously are not in the Thogdad character. And one of them is, you know, when I'm on holiday, I will take a stack of books. I'll read a book a day by the pool, and I also love to write. So yeah, I'd like to explore that further. And you're right, I do now have the following. But of course, I've got to back that up with good product. If I write a shit book, it's
not going to be great.
No, that's right.
I've got one last question that I forgot to ask about. So obviously we saw so I'm going to tell a bit of an exclusive story here about something that happened to me on Saturday. So I went to a wrestling event, my first ever wrestling event outside of WWE, a little show in Crewe. And as the show was about to start, my mum came back in and she collapsed.
Oh dear.
Collapsed into my arms, and then I caught her, and then someone else helped me catch her, laid down to the floor, and she was out for about a minute. I called an ambulance and things like that. She's now, the people there were great. Laura, if you're watching this, you were brilliant. The people at the event were brilliant. She's still in hospital now, hopefully coming out soon. but she's feeling a lot better. They still don't know what's happened. But then what was pretty surreal for me was watching the Newcastle game and seeing something worse happen and thinking that could have happened.
Yes.
Like, how surreal was that being there?
Yeah, well, first of all, we wish your mum a speedy recovery. That is what. Yeah, I hope she gets better. It was surreal being there, and I'll tell you, I'll open up about this because we were very shocked at the Newcastle game. Of course, the fan went down, and literally, I was kind of praying for her, him or her. Is it a lady? I think at Newcastle.
I think it's a man. I think
it's a man. Okay, so we were praying for them. I mean, we took some stick because we were moved by that. And the thing about Thogdad's channel, it's part entertainment, but it's partly reporting the news. Yeah. So Theo got a stick for putting that in the title. Now,
I don't agree with that. I'll say this now. He didn't deserve the things that he got.
Well, I'm glad you say that. But I'll tell you what, because if you go on and Google that incident, you'll find reports from Sky, from BBC, Newcastle Chronicle. Everyone reported on it because it was newsworthy. We led with that in the title because it was newsworthy.
Because it was possibly the most major thing that happened in the game.
It was something in 40 years of watching football, 45 years of watching football, I've never seen anything like that. So to pretend it never happened and not have it in the title and not include it would be wrong from a sort of reporting point of view. Yeah. So we put it in the title, and what I call actually, it's the Twitter virgins. I don't think anyone's really truly offended by that. No. It's just the Twitter virgins like to jump on anything and twist it. If you'd actually seen the video, the very first screen is a dedication. We dedicated that video, which we then took down. We dedicated that video to the person who collapsed. Mm-hmm. And we actually handled the incident in a very, very delicate way. And during the game, we were, like I said, we were praying for that unknown person
to get better.
It was disturbing. And at that point, you're thinking to yourself that, the football doesn't matter. Who cares? 3-2, whatever the score is, a person might be dying in front of us. Yeah. And that's what... And it's full marks to the fans who alerted the players, and the players alerted the medical staff. I thought it was handled. It was handled very well.
I think the guy that saved his life is called Dr. Samson. He was the one that started doing CPR. And interestingly, we have tutorial in college, and I was like, I wish we'd do a session on CPR, and we did. Yeah. And it helped me realize if I was put in that situation, would I be comfortable to support? Yeah. And now I think I would be, because I've had a little refresher on the basics.
Yes. So I tweeted at the time, basically our thoughts and prayers go out to that Newcastle fan who collapsed. And it was tragic to be there. I was at the game when Fabrice Muamba collapsed, the Tottenham Bolton game. Yeah. And of course his heart stopped for 79 minutes. And when you've witnessed something like that, when you go to football to watch 11 men kicking a ball around, you might win, you might lose, have a bit of banter. You know what football's like. But then occasionally, something like the Fabrice Muamba incident, or the incident at St James's Park on Saturday happens.
The Ericsson incident.
Or the Ericsson. I was watching that here, and I was screaming.
I wasn't, and I came down, and my stepdad does not watch football. And I came down, and he was like, "Someone's I think they've just died on the pitch." And I was like, "What? Who?" And he was like, "This Ericsson guy." I was like, "What?" And then we were all just and the way the BBC handled that was shocking. I think that doesn't need to be, but the way Sky did it, they didn't zoom in on what was happening. Yeah. They just dealt with it, which was the right thing to do. The ref handled it well. Only Eric Dyer could score an own goal and get man of the match in the same game, but he saved his life. So
I know. So when something like that happens, you just think that the football is secondary. Human life is what matters for most.
Yeah. So I would like to thank you massively for letting me do this, and it's been a lovely interview. It's been about half an hour, I think, which has been great. Is there anything you've got coming up that you want to mention at the end of this? And I'll put some links and things.
There's going to be a whole lot more football. There's going to be a lot happening on the Thogdad channel. I mean, you'll have seen that we're now getting to a lot more international games. Yeah. We're working with La Liga, for example. We're doing some Spanish content. We'll be going back to Germany, lots of Champions League stuff, and just keep watching. And thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone who watches the channel, because without you guys, we're nothing really.
Yeah, try and come to Crewe at one point.
Yeah,
that's one thing. In our
Good shout.
little stadium in League One. So
Brilliant, love to, mate.
get yourself down. So thank you, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe. Go down to the description. You'll find everyone's links, my links, Thogdad's links, everyone's links in the description. And I hope you've enjoyed it. Leave comments on who you want me to interview next. Tweet me with people that you want me to interview next. Tag them as well, because that would help if they could see it. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy my next interview.